We're going to open up today with the CRC meeting. Today is May 14th, 2021. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the April 16th, 2021 board meeting. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
Yeah, so the IT meeting were required.
Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
Motion.
Josh, do I have a second?
Second.
Jim, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Great. Moving on to the second item, the RPI bond. Steve or Justin Miller, is that who's going to be discussing this? Justin Miller?
Yeah, let's go right to Justin Miller on both this and item 3.
And it was like,
I need a wheelbarrow to carry this.
Just a request for everybody, if you can put yourself on mute if you're not talking.
Yeah, I'll hold until the folks are on mute.
Danae, that's you. You gotta go on mute. Danae, mute, please.
We all good?
Looks like it.
Okay, cool. The resolution that we have prepared for this morning is the culmination of the application from RPI to the CRC to refund its Series 2002 E bonds that were issued by the Troy IDA as part of the larger financings that took place in 2008 for major campus upgrades that took place, including MPAC and other upgrades that many of the folks in Troy are familiar with. This is the last series of the Troy IDA's bonds that are being refunded and taken out and placed through the Troy CRC, this board. The 2002 E bonds were in the principal amount of $25 million. They're being refunded through this series of bonds to be issued by the Troy CRC. The preliminary official statement was issued yesterday with an estimated par amount of $20 million, which may move a little bit. The institution's paying down some of that debt with cash reserves and then restructuring the greater portion of it through the issuance of this 2021 series of refunding bonds. We had an initial resolution at the prior CRC board meeting last month. Steve and I and one of our attorneys structured and conducted what's called a TEFRA hearing. I think it was on May 3rd. We didn't have any members of the public join us, but we conducted the required public hearing for the issuance of the bonds. There's a required approval from the mayor of the city of Troy as the applicable elected official. When these forms of civic facility bonds are issued, you need an elected official to endorse that. Sometimes it's an elected body, but in this case, the mayor can serve that capacity. He signed that the same day as the public hearing. And we're here now with what's called the bond resolution, which is the last official action of the CRC to issue this series of bonds. Steve and the institution worked on a refunding fee schedule, I think 25 basis points. So if I remember correctly, it's $62,500 for an administrative fee to be collected by the issuer at closing. And we expect the closing to occur probably in the first week or early in the second week of June. So that's the quick recap.
Thanks, Justin.
Yep.
Does anybody have any questions for Justin or Steve at this time regarding the RPI bond?
Yeah, I just have, when do they mature?
I can provide you, I'll open up the official statement, which we just received yesterday. You'll bear with me for 1 second. I believe they go out for, there's a slight extension of the maturity on the 2002 E bonds. I'll give you an exact date if you let me dig in really quickly here. I think 15 or 20 years. And these are largely, the maturities are largely tied to the useful life of the improvements that were the basis of the original financing. So they can only go for a finite term based on what is billed. These are all large capital buildings and projects, which can go for as much as 30 and 40 years. Let me see here.
And just so I understand, these bonds are now going to be on the CRC's financials?
That's correct. They'll be indicated as outstanding bonds on the balance sheet of the CRC, not the IDA. They have been carried just as a $25 million bullet with no principal knockdown since the issuance in 2008, because they had 300 million in other bonds that were amortizing and maturing. This was one of the later bullets, and now they're attending to this one. I am digging through here. I apologize for not having the exact maturity year right in front of me, but I can follow up with that as soon as I scroll. It's a 216-page document, so I'm scrolling through really quickly. But if there's any other questions, I'll dip in and clarify that for Albert in just a couple of seconds.
Okay. Yeah, does anybody else have any questions? Just a recommendation, Justin, maybe a control F for mature might help, but.
It's a PDF. Yeah, maybe I can do that, right?
But yeah, is there any other questions for Justin or Steve regarding this? Albert, I'll ask you, do you mind if we ask for a motion for approval as we search for that maturity date, or do you want to wait?
It was just curious, that's all.
Okay. All right. So we'll let Justin, look through the file, and then, we'll vote on this right now. So Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, we're looking for a motion to approve the RPI bond resolution. All right. So since there's no further questions for Justin or Steve, do we have a motion to approve the RPI bond resolution?
I'll make the motion. Stephanie.
Do we have a second?
I'll second, Sue.
Sue, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great. RPI bond resolution is approved. Next item on the agenda is the Troy IDA bond. I know, Justin, you're still looking through the documents. Maybe we'll let you do this one first and then get back to that.
Yeah, sure enough, it was on page 3. I skipped over it. For Albert's edification and for the board and the public in general, the bonds are as they're currently sized, and that may move a little bit. There's a first maturity in 2022 next year, and then there's principal amount of payments running through 2036. So roughly 15 years, which was my rough memory. There's varied principal knockdowns, 820,000 in 2022, and they vary a little bit. In 2030, there's actually a $3.5 million principal knockdown, and they kind of vary and then term out at the end of 2036.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Justin.
Yeah, no problem. The next item, and these two matters are inextricably, or they're connected. I can't speak on Friday morning, but one wouldn't happen without the other. And we talked about this, I think, on a higher level at the April board meeting cycle. The Troy IDA, which you're all board members of, is established by state statute, within which there are certain purposes, powers, and limitations established. One of the items that remains within the Troy IDA Enabling Act is a statement that once all of its bonds are redeemed and canceled, it dissolves, and then all of the assets and obligations of the Troy IDA are actually absorbed by the city itself. So it's a dissolution event that is triggered predominantly and exclusively by the repayment of all of the bonds that have been issued by the IDA. Sure enough, the 2002 E-Series that's being refunded right now for RPI is the last set of tax-exempt bonds that are outstanding for the Troy IDA. So it's a little bit of an existential issue. We are and have been working with the administration and city council. There's been a proposed amendment to the Troy IDA Enabling Act, and we're going to go through this whole thing, but a briefer version of it during the IDA meeting. We have a piece of special legislation that has been drafted and endorsed by the city council in what's called a home rule message. Anytime a state statute that specifically affects Troy is either proposed or adopted, the city council is looked to for an endorsement, which is called a home rule message. Once that's adopted, the proposed amendment, the legislative change, is forwarded to your legislative delegation. In this case, Assemblyman McDonald and Senator Breslin are the individuals on either side of the legislature that would carry the proposed bill through various committees in each house for adoption by hopefully the end of this legislative term, and then presentation to the governor, which we would hope would be a kind of a pro forma approval, and then this amendment would be put in place, and we wouldn't have the problem. And this occurred for all IDAs in late 2012, where they had under the general municipal law, had this issue fixed. We have a sister kind of entity in the city of Auburn in Cayuga County that had its issue fixed in 2013. And ours has just been kind of sitting out there, not really pressing us. There's always been a plan of, yeah, we got to get to that, but now it's here. Our hope is to have it corrected by the end of this current legislative session, which could run through the end of June. The RPI bond closing, as I mentioned before, is anticipated to be the first or second week of June. So there may even be a 2-week window where we would have this problem. So we've proposed that what we're calling I don't know if it's a restoration bond or I forget the exact term that we threw on it, but
A preservation bond.
preservation. Thank you. I'm still looking at the POS. The preservation bond would, in essence, be a loan from the CRC to the IDA. We just use the number $10,000 because it's a round number. The IDA, in essence, would just borrow 10 grand from the CRC and memorialize that through the issuance of a $10,000 bond from the IDA to the CRC to hold until the IDA pays back that amount of money. It's really just to preserve the entity and on a legal level, not hit this dissolution event or trigger that could occur for as little as 2 weeks, or if for any reason there's, and we can't really predict what happens in the legislature. Nobody really can, I don't think. If it goes into the next session, it may take, as much as a year to get this technical correction attended to. So we put together the preservation bond to have a 1-year term, 0 interest rate, and it's callable at any time. If the IDA sees this legislation go into effect in July, we'd simply transfer the money back and resolve the issue. So that's a quick explanation. For purposes of the CRC's consideration today, we put together, just to follow pro forma and good hygiene, we put together an application from the IDA to the CRC for a $10,000 loan. You have a CRC resolution in front of you today on your agendas that would approve that loan, subject to just receipt of the security, the bond to be issued from the IDA. And we'll visit that, the other half of this, when we go through the IDA's agenda today. So that's the quick and dirty. If there's any questions, it's a unique issue. We hit this issue with a few IDAs in Western New York back in 2010 and 11, before the big correction for most IDAs occurred in 2012. One issue was, I think, in the city of Dunkirk, where an IDA was about to close on a transaction, and somebody asked the question of, boy, do they have any bonds outstanding? And like, oh boy. And it was a Yahoo data center, a very big deal. So a preservation bond was used to get from, kind of cross the divide and avoid a dissolution event. And I think there was another one in Niagara County, if I remember correctly. So this isn't the first time or the only time, but because the Troy IDA statute is kind of the last one to get tweaked and fixed, we're just taking this precautionary step for now, and hopefully it's a very short-term one.
Thanks, Justin.
Yep.
Steve, everything to add or?
No, just that we did have this legislation prepared to go last year, and then COVID hit and it just got delayed and changed. So that's why we're doing it this year.
Gotcha. Does anybody have any questions for Justin or Steve at this time? All right, so I know there's a lot and I hope I fully understand it. So it looks like we're looking for a motion to approve the $10,000 loan between the CRC and the Troy IDA. Do we have a motion to approve that loan?
Make a motion.
Albert made the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Was that Latasha? Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Thanks, Justin. Appreciate it. All right. Next item on the agenda is the executive director's report. Steve?
Okay, so 2 updates here. The first, and I'll mention this again in the IDA meeting, is the governance committee to start looking at our policies. And I was out a little bit and we had a short period between last month and this month, so we did not, the governance committee didn't meet, and we just scheduled a meeting this morning for next Friday in the morning. That is Albert, Stephanie, and Susan are on that committee with me. Anybody else is welcome to join it. We'll go through we'll put it on the website and announce that and take care of our minutes as well so that they can be presented to the board at the next meeting. But that'll be an ongoing process now for the next several months to start looking at our policies and procedures. Let's see, just to mention that this, I think, and I asked Justin this and forgot his answer. Right now, we are able to meet online because of the COVID, the governor's special executive legislation allowing us to do so. That may modify in the coming weeks. I don't know, we could start potentially having meetings next month or have a hybrid, or it might get extended through till September. So we're still unsure of that. I just figured I would ask right now, are people in favor of, meeting in person, or you want to do as soon as we can, or do we want to continue doing Zoom until we have to meet in public? And we can do that by email as well, I guess.
Yeah, so I was going to say, yeah, we can probably discuss that.
Right. What else? First Avenue in Lansingburg. So the CRC funded some existing conditions studies by Alta Planning to look at putting in a shared use path along First Avenue between Powers Park and the 123rd Street boat launch. I'll email everybody the link to that existing conditions report. But based on that, they came up with recommendations that can be done in different areas on that avenue. And I have assembled a team of Lansingburg residents, and we're meeting Monday night to walk the site and start considering the options. And then based on that, then we'll actually go to a further design of how to implement that. And hopefully that could be done later this year. There is some funding available right now in the engineering department to do some improvements on First Avenue. So Council Member Gully is on that committee. So he's representing the City Council as well as the CRC and the neighborhood. And then most of the balance of the committee are people that live on First Avenue or long established First Avenue residents. After the steering committee comes up with that, then we'll have some more public outreach meetings as well. So I just wanted to update you that that is moving along. So unless anybody has questions for me on any of those, that's it for my executive director's report.
Any questions for Steve? All right, appreciate it, Steve. Mary Ellen, the next item on the agenda is financials.
Okay, our first report is a statement of financial position. As of 4/30/21, our total assets are $524,242. with all of those assets in cash. We have no liabilities, so our fund balance is $524,242. No significant changes to the statement of financial position. For the month of April, on the statement of activity, we have a $35,091 deficit. We had application fee of $2,500 from RPI, and our largest expense was in grants, which were grants to the Troy LDC.
Thanks, Mary Ellen. I got a quick question. So we talked about how the bonds are going to shift over to these statements. How will that affect and impact it? So there's going to be a bond on the asset side here?
Honestly, I need to see the paperwork before I can even speak to it. I'm really not sure how it's going to show up on the statement yet.
Okay. All right. All right. So does anyone have any questions for Mary Ellen regarding the financials? All right. Do we have a motion to approve the April's financials?
I'll make the motion.
Stephanie, do we have a second?
I'll second. Sue?
Sue, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Great. Thanks, Mary Ellen. Steve, any new or old business you'd like to discuss?
None.
None. All right. That was quick. All right. If there's nothing further, do I have a motion to adjourn the CRC meeting?
I'll make the motion.
Stephanie, do we have a second?
Second.
Jim, appreciate it. Any opposed? All right, we are adjourned.
Okay, so the IDA meeting now, we got to call the IDA meeting to order. You still there, Justin?
Yep. Are you talking about Justin Miller?
No, you. So you're gonna call the IDA meeting to?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Good morning, everybody. May 14th, 2021. Call to order the Troy IDA meeting. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the April 16th, 2021 meeting. Do we have a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll make the motion. Sue?
Sue, do we have a second?
I'll second. Stephanie?
Great. Any further discussion regarding those minutes? All in favor on the approval?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Minutes are approved. All right. Gonna pass it over to Justin Miller again for item number 2 on the preservation bond discussion.
Sure. Yeah, just repeating most of the summary that was provided during the CRC meeting, but for purposes of these minutes, the IDA Enabling Act contains a dissolution clause that is triggered when all IDA bonds are defeased or refunded. We expect the IDA's last set of outstanding bonds, being 2002E series bonds for RPI, to be refunded within the next 3 to 4 weeks. We're working on Enabling Act amendments through the form of special legislation that would hopefully be adopted by the end of June. If not the end of this June, within the next legislative cycle. So in an effort to avoid the dissolution clause within the Troy IDA Enabling Act and the Public Authorities Law, we've recommended and the CRC has approved the issuance of a $10,000 loan from CRC to IDA that'll be secured through the issuance by the IDA of what's called a preservation bond in the amount of $10,000. That bond will be issued prior to the RPI refunding and just literally stuck in a drawer as a preservation instrument so we don't have a dissolution event occur inadvertently. Once the special legislation is adopted by the state, we would simply unwind this friendly loan between sister organizations and destroy the preservation bond and move along. The enabling act won't have this dissolution clause in it going forward relating to bonds, but it will have a provision as drafted that would occur if all of your street lease transactions are terminated. And at this point, we have a couple of dozen pilot agreements out there, some of them running into the 2040s, I think, at this point. So we would have a long time to worry about the problem going forward with an active set of pilot agreements out there. So the proposition and the resolution put before the IDA board this morning is to authorize the issuance of the preservation bond and the acceptance of the loan from the CRC.
Thanks, Justin. Anybody have any questions for Justin Miller? All right. So do I have a motion to approve the $10,000 preservation bond from the CRC to the IDA?
Motion, Jim.
Jim, do we have a second?
Second, Albert.
Albert. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Great. Thanks, Justin. The motion was approved for the $10,000 preservation bond from the CRC to the IDA. All right, Steve, next item on the agenda is the executive director's report.
Yes, so a couple things there. First off, as I mentioned before, the governance committee will be looking at our policies and procedures starting next Friday at a governance committee meeting made up of Albert Watson, Stephanie, and Susan as well. Sorry. Okay, let's see. We met before and we had previously reviewed the business annual reports. And on that, we made it brought to our awareness that there was one pilot outstanding that really had not met the goals of what they were attempting to do, of what the pilot was based on, which was for the Flanagan building. So they have met with the assessor and they will be voluntarily removing their pilot. They're also the Uncle Sam garage as well as, I believe, removing their pilot as well. So neither of them are done yet, but they are in the process of occurring right now. What else do I have to mention in here? Governance committee, the pilots. I believe for now that's it for the executive director's report.
All right. Any old and new business you'd like to discuss?
No.
Okay. Marianne, I guess you're up for the financials.
Okay. The first report is a statement of financial position. As of 4/30/21, our assets are, yes, $541,839 with $352,473 of those assets in cash. Our liabilities are $123,319, leaving us with a fund balance of $418,520. No significant changes to the statement of financial position. The next report is a statement of activity. And for the month of April, we have a 35. This isn't right, Steve.
I got.
This is the wrong statement of activities. I believe this one's the CRC's.
Yeah, IDA. Hang on a minute. So I know it's not IDA financials because that's what we're looking at. Well, I think everybody got it, so it's gonna take me longer to do this with my left hand than we'll be able to do. So I'm gonna just stop sharing the screen and let you talk through what everybody should
Okay.
have.
Before we do that, did everyone receive the email at 9:57? So that, or that's the incorrect one as well?
IDA financials, let me look at that.
Yeah, it looks like it's the same one.
That's still a
So probably the statement of activities for the IDA is in the CRC packet. They probably got flipped.
CRC financials, give me a minute.
No, it's the same one.
Yeah, I think it's
The same one?
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
I did notice the aging report.
Yeah,
So the aging report does relate to the actual IDA statement of activities.
Yeah.
If you guys, I don't even know everybody's email address, but I have a statement of activities. Let me see if I can reply to the one Danae sent this morning. Yes, I can reply all. And
yeah, I think there's still, so they both have the CRC report on them.
yep, but I have the IDA here at home, so I can send it to everybody right now.
Okay. Sorry about that.
That's okay. And then that way things will be a lot clearer for.
Well, I guess while we're waiting for those statements, Steve, I agree with Albert. We're able to, we requested it last time regarding the accounts receivable aging statement from the pilots. And obviously the one that jumps out is the 16 First Street properties being over 60 days past due. What kind of efforts are we pursuing to collect those?
Well, so I sent out, and that's my bad that it took this long. I just received the email back from Timothy James inquiring why it's late. So we're on it. And that one, as well as the Hendrick Hudson pilot. So we will chase those down by Tuesday. And hopefully I'm starting to get some answers back in right now to my questions on those this morning. And actually the Hendrick Hudson, they're going to try and pay online. So and get those cleaned up by Monday. But so I'll give an email report follow up on those next week. So there's two big ones and a number of smaller ones that are just late fees.
Has everybody received their new statement?
Yes, I did. Everybody else? Looks like we're getting some head nods.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
I got it.
Yep.
Okay,
That I can bring up. So what are we looking?
there we go. That's it. The statement of activity for the month of April, we have a $12,071 deficit. We had income of $700, which was a permit fee. And our largest expense was in architectural engineering, in which we paid for Creighton Manning for the South Troy Industrial Road project. So I think that the accounts payable and the accounts receivable reports are fairly explanatory, self-explanatory. Does anybody need any help with those?
No, I don't see anybody else have any questions right now. Does anyone have any comments or questions though regarding the statements we just received from Mary Ellen on the profit and loss statement or the balance sheet or any other aging statements?
So if I'm looking at this correctly, did we collect any late fees? We did not collect any late fees for the prior month.
If we collected late fees, they would have been remitted to the city already. The ones you see on the accounts receivable report haven't been collected yet. And we will collect them and give them to the city.
So late fees are included in that statement. It's not just the actual payment.
That's correct. So late fees are assessed every 30 days based on the contract, the pilot agreements.
Anyone else have any questions for Mary Ellen regarding the financials?
Thanks for doing that report. That clears up a lot of questions for me.
Good.
I agree.
Oh, and it helps me out too. We'll try and get moving on that a little more. It's been odd as we all come back and being in the office at different times, but having this report now will obviously help keep me on track to chase these down.
All right. If there's no further discussion or questions, do we have a motion to approve the financials?
I'll make the motion. Albert.
Albert, do we have a second?
I'll second. Sue.
Sue, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Great. Anything else to add, Steve? Justin, anybody else? Are they filming this weekend? Is that this weekend?
They should be. I think they're filming through mid-June. So I don't know. It's hard to keep track of when they're there and when they're not. But it should be over the next 4 weeks now that they're filming. I think it's mostly weekdays, not weekends.
All right. Do we have a motion to adjourn the Troy IDA meeting today?
I'll make the motion.
Stephanie, do we have a second?
Second.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. This meeting's adjourned.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good weekend.
Yeah, thanks. Yep.
Stay well.
Take care, everybody.
you.
Have a good weekend.
See ya.
Take care.